Welcome to the Breakup Recovery Podcasts by your host, Barbara Stevens. Discover the wisdom and remarkable insights of Barbara Stevens, breakup recovery mentor, author, and public speaker. Barbara offers programs and solutions for any breakup so you can turn your life around, create lasting changes for the better, and embrace life again.
Hello and welcome to Breakup Recovery. I'm Barbara Stevens, your host. I have with me Alvia Turney. If you remember, Alvia is the CEO of Act for Tomorrow, and they are separation specialists. On today's episode, we are going to explore how fear can have an impact on the decisions you need to make when it comes to your breakup, separation, or divorce. Welcome, Alvia.
Hello, Barbara. Lovely to be with you again.
Alvia, do different genders have different fears when it comes to their breakups?
Yes, they do. The biggest fear for men would be the fear of being on their own. I find with the older generation of male, the first fear that comes to mind is, what will I do now? And I haven't got a network of friends. And they tend to find themselves very insular. With females, the biggest fear is, will they cope financially? But rather than put people into genders, the most important area that I'd like to talk about is when there is the fear of actually breaking up, how it can make you paralyzed and you actually don't make the decision to leave a situation that is unhappy or violent or restricting in any way. Often we hear people who are in very unpleasant situations and we can't understand why they stay, but it's simply a fear factor.
So do you think the fear is different depending on your age? So if you're a younger person in your 20s to 30s, is their fear different to somebody that's in their 40s, 50s and 60s?
Fear definitely is different for the ages. That comes down more to the generation stigmas and the way that we've been brought up. The younger generation don't fear breaking up. That's why we tend to hear that a lot of marriages only last 18 months. However, with the older generation, if we go to the over 40s and into the 50s, we've been with someone a very long time, and the fears are, how will I cope on my own? Not necessarily by being by yourself, but financially.
So have you got a story you could tell us, Alvia, that highlights how fear stopped this person from making decisions about their breakup?
Yes, in fact, the easiest way is to make a short list of things that are very common. The first one is, how am I going to tell my family? The second one is, how am I going to tell my partner? On top of that, they fear things like, how will this affect the children? Is it detrimental to break up? Should they stay together, not just for the sake of the children, but maybe until they finish school? People have many, many reasons that they stay in a relationship. However, what they don't seem to realize, the health implications to this, to themselves and everyone there. One of the things that we say to people who are trapped with staying is, always consider the other person. You're not giving 100% to the relationship if you're already contemplating leaving. The other person actually deserves to be happy as well. So the story that comes to mind is a lovely lady, very, very sweet in nature, has been wanting to leave, has not known how to or when to. So we had a look at her whole situation. There wasn't a lot of money for the couple to even share. But her biggest fear was telling him and upsetting him and what would happen to the extended family and how they would take the situation. Finally, when she had made her decision that it was what she wanted to do, we looked at what day would suit the situation, avoiding birthdays, anniversaries, not just for the couple, but the whole family. And then on top of that, what to say in the breakup really did help this lady. So being prepared in her case is what helped. On the day of the breakup, though, she was literally beside herself with fear of, would he react in a negative manner? Would he lose his patience and temper? Would he scream and shout? She actually built it into something so large that anybody would fear it. It was almost felt like she was going to walk into the lion's den. However, what did happen was much more pleasant, and if everyone broke up this way, this would be a nice way for people to handle the situation. So she planned the day that it was to take place, and she couldn't face telling him face to face. So the best thing would have been to give him a card. And the plan originally had been that she would write a letter to him and tell him that there was a letter waiting, so he didn't walk into it and get a shock. However, for the 3 weeks building up to this happening, of course he knew something was not right. She was just going through the motions, which are the words he used. And he said, what is happening? Why are we not communicating? What is it you're feeling? What do you want? So what she did in place was she actually sent him a text message and just said, you've been asking me what's happened. And the truth is, I really don't want us to continue being together, but I'm so frightened of telling you face to face that this is why I'm sending you a text. It's not to be rude, but it's simply because I just don't have the courage to say it to your face. Anyway, she was on her way home, hoping that he'd received the text. Of course, he hadn't. And he called her and said, hi, I'm on my way home. I'll be about half an hour. And she said, well, have you seen the message? And he said, what message? And she said, I've sent you a text. Well, he hadn't seen the message, and he said, no, I haven't got a text. The text hasn't come through. So she was unsure whether or not he had actually received it. Well, when he got to the house, she was there, and she said, have you seen the text? And he said, no, I haven't got a text. And he showed her his telephone, and there was no text message from her. While he was showing her the phone, the text literally came through. This poor lady was frozen, and she said, I'm just going to go for a walk. I'm going over to my friend's property, which is all on the same area. And he read the text, and she had left the house. Well, he walked over to the friend's property, and he just very calmly said to her, shall we have a coffee? Because her message was caring. It wasn't a bolt out of the blue. It wasn't blaming anybody. It was simply stating the fact that they had not been getting along well, and she was telling him for the first time the truth of how she felt. Anyway, the next day when she contacted me, she said that evening they actually watched a movie together. And it was a comedy, and they actually laughed for the first time in months. And he turned to her and said, can you feel how much lighter the room is? He said, we've been having this hanging over us for, he said, almost 2 years. And he said, I don't want to break up, but I think it's the right thing to do. So all her fears of what his reaction would be were all in her mind. And if only she had faced those fears earlier, they probably could have moved on by now. But at least because the breakup message was respectful and it acknowledged him, and it also was had a very polite ending, which was, can they break up? Respecting each other, they can now move forward without the animosity and face what has to come in a respectful way.
So, Alvia, part of your business, I guess, is to identify what someone's fears are when they come to you and they want to break up, and then for you to find solutions so that those fears don't manifest into a bigger problem than what they already are. Like with this lady, she just kept thinking that the problem was bigger than what it was, and in her mind it was huge, and she didn't know how she was going to do it. So I guess it's important for you with your clients to calm them down and to talk about their fears and then to find solutions. Is that part of what you do?
Goodness, you've really put that well, Barbara. Yes, because everyone's fear is different. This lady's fear was actually the delivery. If we have someone else's fear, which is the money, then we will go through the finances. We'll get them the information they need. A lot of people fear solicitors, the costs, or even understanding what's going to be said. So we will be with them. In the case of the gentleman who feared being on his own, we helped him find meetup groups that suited interests that he had. In fact, when we now hear from our clients after the event, they've actually far more productive. They are involved in different activities that during their relationship had gone to sleep. The gentleman who feared being on his own has met up with a meetup group that go walking and canoeing. He loves it. He's got new friends and new activities that he would never have participated in. And with other people, we've got people joining education, jumping out of aeroplanes. It's just opening their minds to anything that they can participate in the future. Overcoming fear is actually quite simple when you're not in that person's place. Finding solutions for other people is much easier, of course, and that's our job. That's what we do best.
So I guess when a client comes to you and they tell you their fears and you work through their fears and show them that life isn't going to be as bad as what they think, then is their breakup a little bit easier?
Yes, because they're empowered. They also feel that there is some control back in their life, and they are able then to make good decisions as the obstacles, come up. And they also learn good new strategies for their future as well, because they're learning that anything that seems to be a big problem really isn't. There is always an answer to a problem.
I guess for people when they are going through their divorce or they're thinking about going through a breakup, their fears can paralyze them. And it takes an organisation or a business or someone like yourselves, Act for Tomorrow, to help alleviate those fears. And I think it's when you have a fear and you build it up in your mind, it's very hard for you to say stop or to think a different way. So I think you offer an amazing service, Alvia.
Thank you, Barbara. We actually really love what we do. I like the business that I've created because it's very rewarding when you see somebody who is literally paralyzed with their situation, not only overcome it, but to handle it and themselves in a dignified and respectful manner to the other party, who also then can get through this terrible time that in someone's life. It is ever such a rewarding job. It really is. We enjoy what we do. We're not advocates for breaking up, but we are advocates for living your life with someone you love and who loves you. The other person also deserves to be free to be with someone who loves them.
It must be rewarding for you, Alvia, to have someone who comes in, tells you their fears, you work through those solutions, they have their breakup, and then they contact you down the track and tell you how good their life is, or you can see the improvement in their state of mind. That must be very rewarding.
It's lovely. And honestly, if you read the testimonials, you will see that straight away.
So, Alvia, all your information is on your website?
Yes, and you can contact us for an hour free consultation. The objective of the business really is to empower people. You may not need to use our service, and in that 1 hour, we will at least give you some guidance and direction, and that may be all you need.
So what's the website again, Alvia?
www.actfortomorrow.com.au.
Thank you, Alvia, for sharing some of the fears that your clients have and talking about the solutions and how a divorce or a separation or a breakup doesn't have to be as bad as we think it's going to be.
Thank you, Barbara. Look forward to talking to you again.
If you would like to hear previous Breakup Recovery podcasts, visit barbarastevens.com.au. Connect with Barbara Stevens on social media with Barbara Stevens Breakup Recovery Mentor on Facebook and at You'll Be Okay on Twitter. Read further blogs, view webinar replays, and download your free ebook, 3 Easy Steps to Surviving Your Breakup, and much more at barbarastevens.com.au.